Good morning, conversationists. Welcome back to us. And if you're just joining us for the very first time, I'd like to say a very big welcome to you. Welcome to a network. You're in the right place, you're not in the wrong place. That's very important for me to let out. So if you've not watched the previous video where I did an introduction, and then the second one where I'm introducing the segments that we have, in fact, I call them the programs that we have on this uh, um, platform of ours, please do well to check those videos out. It will do all of us a lot of good for you to understand the platform where you are. You have the right to understand what kind of conversations are being held here, if you want to be part of it, if you do relate with it or not. In the meantime, of course, I'd appreciate your comments, I'd appreciate your shares and your subscription. Let's just journey together. Once again, I say welcome and thank you for tuning in. Okay, so today we'll be looking at the second important program or conversation that I wanted, the second thing I wanted us to build a conversation around over the years. Yes, I told you if you're visionary, the vision gets clearer on the move. So maybe this may not be the kind of thing you hear regularly. This may not be your niche. This may not be something you've ever thought about. This may not be something you've ever bothered about regardless of how it may have affected you in the past or maybe affected somebody you know. But guess what? I've always been curious about prisoners, people who go to prison, people who have been to prison, whether they were guilty or not. I've always been curious, like, what happens behind those bars? When you live in prison, when you live in an African prison, when you live in a Cameroonian prison, what's the life like in there? What is your daily routine? How does it transform you psychologically, spiritually, physically? What does it do to you, regardless of the crimes, whether you committed crime or not? And it's sad that we have quite a lot of people who are in prison, who've been in prison for years for things they didn't do. I remember some years back, I was watching one of our TV stations here at home. I think it was Equinox or so. Yes, it was Equinox. And there was a report of a man who had been in prison for 10 years. That is 10 good years. And guess what? He was never tried. He was never tried. He was never tried. And he was released after 10 years. And like the video, I could see him, he came down from a bike, putting on the very suit he wore to that prison with his suitcase. So it shows that he was arrested while he was probably coming back from work fully clothed. He had grown really thick hairs and coming down from a bike to his family. And then I just started asking myself, like, how on earth? And he's been released after 10 years was not because now he had been tried. He was never tried. It's like they arrested him, they never looked at his case, and he was just there. How legal or illegal is that? Does it bother you? Or are you completely unbothered because you've never had a family member or somebody who's close to you or somebody who is around you? Or you've never been to prison yourself. You've never been arrested. You've never gone to stay 1 day, 2 days, or a month or months in prison, especially for a crime you did not commit. And you who has committed a crime, when you are reinstated back into society, what happens? What happens? How does it turn out? How does the society take you back? And how do you reinstate yourself in society? What do you feel? It's quite appalling when you look around our country, our continent, that we don't have programs that do follow up on people who are reinstated into society from prison. I don't know if it bothers you. It doesn't matter if they're your relatives, if it bothers you for somebody who is going to prison, that they just get out. There's no counseling, there's no therapy, there's no intimate conversation that allows them to express all the rage. Because whether you even if you are guilty, you still have this rage inside you, right? That you could do the things you did and you're behind bars for the number of years that you're behind bars and then you get out. It's like a large chunk or slice of life has been taken away from you. And then you start reliving memories. You start imagining what if I was not in prison for this number of years. Maybe it's 5 years. What if I was out here 5 years ago? Like that man, I can't imagine. I think it's a more frustrating experience knowing that you were never tried. And after 10 years, they finally remember, oh, you were never really tried. You can go home. Who? I can still picture that scenario. That scene, I watched it on Making Notes on TV. I can still picture it so well. I can't imagine if he had a wife and children, his siblings, his friends, his colleagues, his neighbors, if he belongs to any religious group, the members, his faith family. How, like, when you get out, I can't, like, everything is strange. You know, when you travel out of a place for a very long time, no matter how much you get to even see those places in the videos, when you come back to that place, like, you're physically there, there's nothing like physical, your presence, right? I'm not the virtual these virtual meetings are not going to replace physical meetings. Like they are not going to outdo the value of physical contact with human beings. No matter how technologically savvy we get, virtual is virtual, physical meetings are physical meetings, and I'm sure you agree with that too. So I can't imagine what life is like that. As somebody from a literary background, I thought maybe I would want to cover stories about prisonhood. I would want to work on documentaries, yes, on prisonhood, even visiting prisons, like do prison outreaches. And I wanted to do outreaches. I want to do, yes, I wanted to cover stories, somebody from America. And then for my, of course, I have a diploma in mass communication. So yes, by training, I'm a journalist. And I'm thinking, okay, do we ever think of going to prison to cover stories? Do we ever think of inviting people who have been to prison mark platforms to share their story? What took you there? How did you end up there? Now that you're out, even if you spent just a day, what did that day do to you? Does it account for your change in attitude, your habits? Does it account for the aggression you have? How are you dealing with it? How is society dealing with it? And what steps are you taking to refine yourself after prisonhood? And you who is still there in prison, that we are coming to you now, because right now I can tell you that Mohammed really has to go to the mountain. So you're going now that prison, you covering with, you want to talk to people. What sometimes I see news on our prisons and the way people are, they are hit like sardines, and I don't know if it bothers you, but at that point, you're really not thinking of the gravity of the crimes of who amongst us stole this, who amongst us did this, who among this raped, who among this killed. It's just that human empathy that just comes on when you see people being hit like sardines, you see how choked up they are. It's enough to get into a taxi. If you're, especially if you live you're living in a really, congested or populated area, it's enough to get into a taxi where, like a place like Douala, if you're in Cameroon, Douala is the economic city or the economic capital of this country. If you're a place in Douala, imagine yourself, you're looking for a taxi and then you get into a taxi and how choked up it is. People are just there side by side. People are sweating. People are talking. Different things are holding them. Maybe you are even one of those people because it can be you. It's not always people who are just, they're just all sweaty from work and talking and saliva is just coming out of their mouth, vapor and all of that. And you're so irritated. Everybody has different odor. There's a one for alcohol. There's a one for whatever. Then there's you too. Yeah, because you are not an exception. If you're irritated at people around you in a taxi, they're probably irritated at you as much as you're irritated at them. If you're irritated at them for their alcohol, they're irritated at you for your non-alcohol. It can be anything, right? Yeah. So you imagine being choked up in a taxi for just 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 minutes of drive. And then you have to do that in prison. Well, besides if you're somebody who you've not really grown up on the street and you're arrested. And maybe for a crime that you're supposed to be there for. It's something you have to pay, fine. It's not something that you're supposed to sleep in a cell. Like, what's the law like around prisonhood in Cameroon? Or maybe around you? in your own country, you might just want to chip in your comments. I'd appreciate it as always. And so I told you, I write it down. So this is what I penned down on what I packed. Prison walk, the prison walk. At first, I thought I could bring a new narrative to our prisons, to literature, by introducing storytelling as a therapeutic tool for prisoners to heal, thereby unlocking their prisonhood. But now the vision is clearer. There is need for prisoners to know that they are not forgotten, and the ones who have been to prison to be able to relieve themselves of prisonhood by sharing their prison experiences. Walk with me. Yes. Walk with me. And that's about it on introducing what this segment will be all about. Uh, I'd appreciate your comments, and please remember to keep them as respectful as always. That's about it. I'll see you, God willing, in a bit. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. And yes, let's journey together.